In 1975, Mission to Mars opened at the Magic Kingdom. This attraction took guests on a simulated mission to Mars, yep, sounds about right, until the 1990s, when a brand new, terrifying attraction known as the ExtraTERRORestrial alien encounter replaced it. This was perhaps Disney's most controversial attraction ever. With the attraction being inside of Magic Kingdom, many people expected it to be light and family-friendly like the rest of the park. But boy was it not. It was very different from the other Magic Kingdom attractions in that it was truly scary. The attraction's history is almost as long as the drawn-out screams you'd hear from inside the theaters. So let's dive into the history of the extraterrestrial alien encounter.
Now, there's a whole new land, the new Tomorrowland, where you can journey past the planets, soar through space, travel through time, and come face to face with the most frightening extraterrestrial alien creature you could ever imagine.
Well, that doesn't look potentially scarring. Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter started out as a project that would actually be a ride based off of the Fox movie Aliens. The attraction would have been an interactive shooter ride called Nostromo after the ship in the film. It would have armed guests with blasters, shooting xenomorphs from the film throughout the attraction. It would have replaced the Delta Dreamflight attraction just across the way. Although this never actually ended up happening, the attraction indeed closed and was replaced by a shooter ride that you may know as Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin. I'll be diving into all that history a couple videos from now. As to why Buzz ended up being the ride instead of aliens, well, I'm not quite sure, but here's my theories. A, the less likely theory, Disney thought that it would be too scary. Obviously, this couldn't have been the case, because look what Alien Encounter did. As for B, which I think is more likely, Fox didn't want to do it for some reason. Even though they had already given the great movie ride an alien scene, I guess they didn't want a full ride. But former Disney CEO Michael Eisner still wanted some kind of teen alien attraction within Tomorrowland, so he told the Imagineers to come up with their own. Imagineering came up with the story where a sinister business corporation known as XS Tech was demonstrating teleportation technology inside the new Tomorrowland Convention Center when something goes horribly wrong and an alien is set loose within the crowd. Despite the attraction going into Walt Disney World's Mission to Mars, it was originally planned to be replacing Disneyland's Mission to Mars. But with Disney World's Tomorrowland already receiving a massive transformation, they decided to go with that one instead. Finally, in 1993, Mission to Mars closed permanently at the Magic Kingdom, taking its final flight in October. If you'd like to learn more about Mission to Mars and its predecessor, Flight to the Moon, you can check out my last video via the link in the description. As for Alien Encounter, the attraction opened in 1995, changing Magic Kingdom's history forever. So let's dive into the show itself and explore what it was like. First, let's look at the facade. It did change a lot, seeing as how all the buildings in Tomorrowland were remodeled with that more steampunk vibe. Theming relating to the fictional company XS Tech was also placed around the facade. What you're seeing now is the first pre-show for Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter, which used to be the waiting room for Mission to Mars, as you can see here. It's also worth noting that while this was Mission to Mars, that wall to the left was windows top to bottom, but when Alien Encounter took over, it became a wall with small portholes and the first pre-show via small screens. I also applaud the Imagineers on their creativity for these various events that will soon be hosted at the Tomorrowland Convention Center. Is that what I think I see? Mission to Mars, History or Hoax with Professor Tom Morrow? And the Disney Stockholders Meeting? Here we go. The pre-show would begin with XS Tech telling you all about their company and introducing you to what today's demonstration will be. Also, is it possible that the shape of this alien's head is a reference to the xenomorphs? As the pre-show video continued, you'd be shown a teleportation device under construction and finally be introduced to the sinister leader of ExtraTech, Chairman Clench. As the first pre-show ends, guests would then be sent down the hall into what was formerly Mission Control in Mission to Mars. It is here that ExtraTech would first demonstrate teleportation via their Teleporter 1000 models. You'd be introduced to Sir, Simulated Intelligence Robotics, who was actually Mr. Johnson reused. Of course, the Mr. Johnson figure's skin was removed, some ExtraTech plates were added to the figure, and also some newer mechanics were added, I would assume, seeing as how Sir was a lot smoother than Mr. Johnson. Sir would then introduce guests to Skippy, a small alien test subject who is going to be, in fact, inside of the teleportation tubes for the demonstration. In an effort to prove the teleportation technology safe and effective, Sir would then teleport Skippy from one tube on one side of the room to the other. Unfortunately, though, it would be clear that not everything is as it seems and that the technology is possibly very faulty, as Skippy would then arrive in the opposite tube, scorched and burnt. With guests now extremely concerned about the safety of the technology, they would be sent down the hall into one of two theaters waiting for their Disney attraction to begin. Guests would then be seated in the former Mission to Mars rocket ship rotundas for the terrifying display that awaited them. Unlike Mission to Mars, where, if any, the only restraint was a seatbelt, Alien Encounter literally bolted you down to your seat. The restraints prohibited you from moving very much at all, making it even more nightmarish. The real reason why they were there, though, was to achieve the effects of the alien brushing past you and even touching you in many cases. As the story continued, Chairman Clench would opt to be teleported to your location to prove that it is safe. Unfortunately, the wrong life form would be picked up, and the massive 10-foot-tall alien animatronic would be standing in front of you within the tube. Even more horrifying, later in the show, a maintenance worker would be eaten by the alien via the use of screens and a live performer up on the catwalks. A really cool effect that I feel like people overlook seeing as how the show is so terrifying is that Disney actually had a second tube to come over the main glass one, making it look like the glass was shattered. Wait a second, I'm gonna back it up real quick. What you just saw was the very end of the show, where the ExtraTech employees were able to lower the alien back into the tube, and that big orange flash of light was the alien exploding all over all of the guests. Following the untimely explosion of the alien at the end of the show, guests would then exit the theater and head down the hall into the exit gift shop, Merchant of Venus. In 2003, ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter permanently closed, but it wasn't necessarily because it was a failure. I think it was too successful at being scary, which is what it attempted to do. 14 months after it closed, its replacement, Stitch's Great Escape, opened based off Lilo and Stitch. I'll be covering this in the next video, so stay tuned. Despite ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter being long gone, there's still a tiny bit of the attraction that can still be found today. In Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout at Disney California Adventure, specifically in the Collector's Office, which is the pre-show, you will find an invoice from ExtraTech Chairman Clench, to Tannelier Tavon discussing his many orders from ExtraTech. All of these orders were featured in the introduction video for ExtraTech and the first pre-show for Alien Encounter. So now you know all about the ExtraTERRORestrial Alien Encounter. Do you think it would still work today? Personally, I'd really have liked to experience it, but I'm assuming that it probably wouldn't do too well nowadays either. I do think it is a shame that the intense fear factor of it all made people kind of oblivious to how really technologically advanced and impressive the show was. But hey, Disney got what they wanted. Lots of fear. So, thank you for watching this video. I really had a good time making it. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to Imagine Jackson. If you like this, please hit that like button. And I'll be posting more videos like this, with the next one being about Stitch's Great Escape, the final chapter in this attraction's long history. I also already have 2 videos out about Flight to the Moon and Mission to Mars, and also the Timekeeper / Monsters Inc. laugh floor, which you can watch via both of the links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.